The next topic in space physics is related to life cycle of stars. This topic is also important because in a specimen paper of physics 5054, they ask about the question related to the life cycle of a star. I will also share the question with you, but before that we need to know about the basic life cycle of the stars, that how stars are going to be formed into different types of other type of stars. You can say that the protostar, nebula, white dwarf, black holes. So these all whole process are included in the life cycle of a star. So basically, if we first talk about the journal pattern of whole life cycle of a life star, then we will talk about the individual one. So in starting, we are having a nebula, or we can say that the first type of star we found is in the form of nebula. Then this life cycle will continue like this. After that nebula, we will discuss that how nebula will convert into the protostar, then how protostar will break into main sequence star. We will talk about each and every step, but just initially we talk about the main life cycle of the star. So nebula will convert into the protostar, and then this nebula will further convert into the next type, which is known as the main sequence star. This is the main sequence star, and this life cycle will apply on all type of stars. Even it will also apply on the sun. And they in exam they ask about, or in a specimen paper they ask about with the reference of sun. So we will check out the question also, that how it will link with the sun. And after this main sequence star, it will split into two different objects, or into two different types. The first type is a red supergiant, and the second one is a red giant star. So there are two categories for red star. The first one is red supergiant star, because it is greater in size also as compared to the red giant. And second, this part is known as red giant star. And further, if we continue with red supergiant star, so red supergiant star will further convert into another type, which is known as supernova. It will convert into supernova. So next type is supernova. And further, this supernova will split into final two parts. One is the black hole, and the second one is neutron star. So this is the life cycle of a star from the side of red supergiant star. This is black hole, and neutron star will be on the other side over here. This is neutron star. And if we follow the path from red giant star, so red giant will convert into another form which is known as planetary nebula. This part is known as planetary nebula, and it will convert into the next step into white dwarf, then it will convert into black dwarf. So basically white dwarf is of white color, but our screen is already white, so this is white dwarf. And finally we are having a black dwarf in last. So you may observe that all stars will end up towards the black, that is black hole, or to the black dwarf. So this is a very simple flow chart for the life cycle of a star. This one is the white dwarf. We already talk about the white dwarfs, or we talk about the dark planets. In dark planets, the gravitational pull is very much strong as compared to the other planets, right? We discuss about the solid planets, the gaseous planets, then we will have a dark planets on which the gravitational pull is very much greater as compared to the other planets. So it will start absorbing all other objects near or close to its orbit. So that is the concept of the dark planet. And in this, we will also see that what is the difference between white dwarf and black dwarf and how these all type of stars are going to be forming life cycle of a star, right?
Right, sir.
Okay, so starting from nebula, if we start with nebula, so very first process is that if we talk about all type of stars, so according to the theory, all stars form from a giant interstellar cloud of hydrogen gas and dust called nebula. So this is the origin of all type of star, that how nebula is going to be formed in space or how star is going to be formed, and we call it nebula. So that is the very first step, which is for nebula. Then it will convert into the protostar. So basically protostar, or if we talk about the protostar, the concept of protostar is, let's suppose, so we know that when we are talking about planets, so there must be some type of gravitational pull or gravitational force, right, which pull other object, or that is going to be applied by the surface of that planet towards the center, right? So if we talk about the protostar, so how nebula is going to be convert into protostar, so the concept is that that is the second process which is related to the protostar, which is linked with force of gravity. So the force of gravity within a nebula pulls the particle closer. So after nebula, when we talk about the process of nebula, we are having a force of gravity which pulls the particles close to each other, and it will form a hot ball of gas known as protostar, right? So this protostar is basically a hot ball of gas, right? Just like a sun. So that's why we consider sun as also a type of star. So nebula will convert into protostar, which is also a type of hot ball of gas, and it happens because of the force of gravity within a nebula, right?
So, sir, because of that, a hot ball of gas is formed?
Yes. So that's why we consider sun as a star and a gas of planet, o- or a planet of gas which is made up of hot gas of, or we can say that hot ball of gas. So that is going to be happen with same process of that nebula and protostar, right?
Right, sir.
And if we talk about the density, so the density of protostar will be greater. So the density of protostar is also high. And further, if we talk about some other type of star, or when the force of gravity is strong, so it another thing happens over here that particles collide more frequently as compared to the first stage, that is nebula, right? And this frequent collision will increase the temperature, because we already studied in the gases that how pressure and temperature will change in gases. So that's why temperature will increase due to the successive collision. That's why this protostar is a hot ball of gas, because of a strong force of gravity within a nebula, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is second part and this is the first part. And for the other parts, next we have main sequence star. So if we talk about the main sequence star, that is the third stage. So if we talk about the main sequence stars, so you already studied about nuclear fission and fusion reaction, right?
Yes.
And if we talk about the example of a sun, so which type of reaction takes place on the sun?
Fusion?
Fusion reaction. So now we already have a hot ball of gas. It means we already have high temperature. So it means now the main sequence star is ready for the fusion reaction, right? So in main sequence star, nuclear fusion reaction take place because of that high temperature. Nuclear fusion reaction. So we are having a nuclear fusion reaction because of that high temperature. And the most important thing is this in this nuclear fusion reaction, because when we are going to write the answer, so it will help us to write with the reference and the facts, because if we write just in simple wording, so that will not be acceptable. We need to write that how this fusion reaction start and what is the source of fusion reaction over here. So the hydrogen nuclei will fuse to form helium nuclei. So in this fusion reaction, we use hydrogen nuclei as a fuel, right? It means hydrogen nuclei is responsible for this whole fusion reaction, or in the execution of nuclear fusion reaction in sequence of a star, right?
Yes.
And this hydrogen nuclei will fuse to form helium nuclei. So nuclear fusion starts because of this hydrogen nuclei or this hydrogen gas, and it will fuse to form helium nuclei, and it will also form some other elements. You know that it will also produce neutron and it will also produce some amount of energy, right?
Yes.
So we already have helium nuclei over here, and further we also have a heat energy. and also light energy, just like the sun. So now you can easily relate the example of sun with this type of a star, right? So sun will also work like a same process, or the reactions takes place on the sun will act like same type of main sequence star.
So, sir, the hydrogen nuclei fuses to produce energy?
Yes, so first hydrogen nuclei is just like the fuel for the nuclear fusion reaction, and it will fuse and it will produce helium nuclei and amount of heat energy and light energy, right?
Alright, sir.
And now what is the next in our sequence? Next we have red supergiant star and red giant star. So after this, step number 4. And before moving towards step number 4, one more important thing in this, so that is important note. If we take the example of sun, or if we consider any star, so star or sun is in its stable state, right? Because we studied that the nuclear fusion radiates a huge amount of energy, and there is also a gravitational pull of sun, also like the other star. So every day, every time these nuclear fusion reaction takes place, and we also talk about the radiation or radioactive decay process. So mass will decay time to time, and it will reach its to half life. Then after some time, the mass or the whole planet or whole body is going to be equal to zero. So normally the sun and all other stars are in its stable state. When we talk about the third stage of the life cycle, that is main sequence star. So main sequence star is the stage where all stars are in its stable state, right? So most important
Okay.
thing is all stars are in equilibrium stage, equilibrium or stable. And in a specimen paper, they also ask with the reference of this stable state. So we need to know about, so we need to answer from the third stage, right? We don't need to answer the first two stages because they start the question from stable state. So we will continue with the third stage of the life cycle of a star, that is main sequence star, starting from the equilibrium state, right? And on this stage, one more important thing, we talk about the force of gravity and we talk about the fusion reaction, right? So fusion reaction tries to pull out the star in outward direction, right? Just like the centrifugal force in circular motion, and the gravitational pull of the object will try to uh, maintain the orbit or try to maintain the whole shape of that star due with the help of gravity, right? But at a stable state, both forces are equal and opposite. So we are having inward force, which is due to gravity. Inward force is due to gravity. And second, we are having outward force, and that outward force is due to which reaction?
Fusion?
Fusion reaction. So fusion reaction is responsible for this outward force, but at third stage, these two forces are equal and opposite. So that's why star is in a state of equilibrium or in a stable state, right?
Yeah.
So that is the main sequence. Now further, if we talk about the next type, so next type is of red supergiant star and red giant star. So first we talk about red supergiant star. So stage number 4. So in red supergiant, so this process, we know that we observe sun every day, and we know from the history that sun is continuously in the same process in the third stage for a long time of year. It was in thousands of years. Sun is in its original state. Most of or few of the mass is decayed, but still it is in the form of a star. Or same goes for all other star. Mostly we observe stars in our daily life and sun and different planets in our daily life, but we are talking about star and sun. So after 7 billion years, because the half life of these planets and these stars are very much greater, so if this third step will continue, but after some time we are running out of the fuel, it means that we are having a deficiency of hydrogen gas on the surface of a star. So we are not having enough fuel to continue the process of nuclear fusion, right? Because nuclear fusion is, or hydrogen nuclei is helping nuclear fusion to continue the process on that surface of a star or the surface of the sun. But let's suppose if there is no hydrogen nuclei, so it means there will be no nuclear fusion reaction on the surface of a star or sun, right?
Yes.
So this red supergiant will form because of the deficiency or the running out of hydrogen nuclei, but that will happen after billions of years. So after billions years, we are having hydrogen, which is going to be run out in the process. So it means now fusion reaction will no more continue for longer time, right?
Yes.
So we are having no fusion reaction after billions of years, and this process is going to be die down. So it means now there will be no fusion reaction. So we are left with only one force, that is force of gravity, right? And this force of gravity will start shrink the specific star or that specific um, star which we are going to talk about. It starts shrinking that specific star, and the temperature of that star will also change, right? So due to this whole process, what we will get, or what will happen with that red supergiant, or why we are calling that red supergiant, this happens because of this cause the core to shrink, because we know that there is a gravitational pull, and which is always applying, or which always try to attract all the other objects towards the center. So that's why this cause the core to shrink, and also it will increase the temperature, because now no fusion reaction take place. So that's why all energy is going to be work like increasing the temperature of that specific star, right?
Yes.
And further, core will shrink due to force of gravity. So we are having force of gravity which tries to shrink the whole core of that specific star, and fusion reaction dies down. So there will be no fusion reaction, and the gravity or the gravitational pull will become greater, and the outward force or the pressure is going to be decreased, because there is no more fusion reaction, right?
Yes.
So outward force will decrease. Any confusion till now?
No, sir, it's all clear.
Okay. Because in a start, we are having a hydrogen gas that starts the nuclear fusion reaction. And after some time, we studied that there are two types of forces. One is gravitational, and the second is nuclear fusion that pulls out in or against the direction or against the force of gravity. So that's why we will get the second stage of protostar, and protostar will continue into the third stage that is very important. That is the stable stage where both forces are equal and fusion and the force of gravity are equal. But after billions of years, if this force is going to be running out, so force of gravity will be greater and it will try to shrink whole star towards the center. It means that outward force will decrease and inward force will increase. And what happens next? So now we are having a new type of reaction because now series is going to be changed. We are running out of hydrogen. So now we are having helium nuclei, right? So new reaction will be like this. So new reaction will take place, and this new reaction will be in the form of helium nuclei, and this helium nuclei will form. This will undergo fusion reaction. Now it will start fusing, and the fusion reaction will continue in the form of helium nuclei, and it will form another type of nuclei that is known as beryllium. So this is the new type of reaction, right? And this process will cause outer part of a star to expand. So this process will help the star to expand, and the star will expand just like the same size of the sun, or we can say that it will be like a red giant. That's why we call it red supergiant, because red supergiant means a massive size or just like the size of the sun. So we know that the size of sun is greater in our solar system as compared to the other planets. So all other star will work like the same sun. If this will happen with each star, if it is out of its stable state or after billions of years. So that's why we call it red supergiant, right?
Yeah.
And now we know that we are running out of fusion reaction. So it means now no more extra thermal energy is going to be coming out from the planet. So another important thing in this process is why we call its this stage as a red supergiant, because red color represents it is red because the outer surface starts to cool. So the temperature of the outer surface will starts to decrease. So that's why we call it red supergiant, right?
Yes.
This is the fourth stage, and this is for the red supergiant. On the other hand, if we talk about the second type, which is red giant star, so if we talk about the red giant star, so we already talk about the process of red supergiant star. So same will happen with red giant star, right? That will be not greater just like the red supergiant star, but process will be same because both are red and both are of same type. Only a difference of the mass. If the mass of that star will not like this or not like the type of that sun. So it will only called as red giant star. Otherwise, it is known as red supergiant star, right?
Okay.
So if we further talk about the subcategories, now red giant star or supergiant star will convert into supernova, then into black hole plus neutron star. And on the other hand, we are having planetary nebula, white dwarf, and black dwarf. So if we talk about the next stage, so next stage is related to the planetary nebula. So this planetary nebula will happen after the fusion reaction have finished. There will be no fusion reaction. So now we are having no fusion reaction, or fusion reaction is completely finished for that specific star. So now it will become unstable. And why it is unstable? Because we are only having a force of gravity. We are not having the balance force over there, the outer force, which is previously acting over there, right?
Yes.
And what will happen next due to this instability? It will start emitting the outer layer of the gas and the dust particle, because in start we talk about the first stage, that is nebula. Nebula is made up of dust and gas particles or a gas form. So now due to instability, the outer layer, which is made up of outer layer, or due to this instability, we can say that the outer layer is start ejecting from the surface, that is dust and gas is going to be eject out from the outer layer, right?
Right, sir.
And planetary nebula is that ejected part of the outer layer. So that ejected layer, we saw in different movies and the video clips, just like the nebula and supernova type documentary. So we found that a type of gas or the dust particles are moving in the space. So those are nebula, right? This process happens in the space with some other stars, not in our galaxy, because we studied in previous lecture that there are different or many galaxies in our universe, and all are expanding day by day and all are at a great distance from each other. So that's why we don't know about some stars that this process is going to take place in space or not. So that ejected layer is called planetary nebula, right?
Yeah.
So basically, if someone asks that what is planetary nebula, so we can say that when there is no fusion reaction on the star, so star will become unstable. And due to this instability, the outer layer of gas and the dust is going to be eject from that surface, and that ejected layer is known as planetary nebula, right? Process is very much same. If
Right, sir.
yes, so if you remember the sequence, so that will be very easy for you to write the whole sequence, because mostly they ask this stable and unstable state, because that is important. Previous is just the formation of a star, that is very simple. And with planetary nebula, we are also having some other particles or some other stages. And the next one is the white dwarf. So if we talk about the white dwarf, so we know the outer layer is already ejected, right? Now we are left out with a core. Now we are having a core which is left out over here, because these whole process are interconnected with each other. So we will continue from this ejected layer. So after this ejected layer or after this planetary nebula, we are having only white dwarf because only core is left behind, right? And this core will completely collapse due to force of gravity. This core will collapse completely. This is for the core. And you already know that why this core will collapse because of that strong gravitational force, because now we are not having any other type of the outward force that balance the gravitational force. So it this core will collapse due to gravity. So in this process, the final state of that star is now known as the white dwarf, right?
Yes, sir.
And the white dwarf will start cooling down, and the amount of energy it emits will decrease. So now we are also running out of the energy. So we know that now no more reaction will take place. And finally, we are having a black dwarf over here. So black dwarf is the final stage when planet or the star has lost significant amount of energy. So due to that loss of energy, that white dwarf will convert into the black dwarf, right? And finally, that star will disappear. So it means there will be no star in the space, or we can say that the star which we are talking about is no more, right? So after that black dwarf, if we continue with the remaining cycle, so in the remaining cycle, we are having a supernova. That was the other side of the life cycle of that star, that is supernova. So that will also happen when the fusion reaction uh, die down, or there will be no fusion reaction take place, because previously we talk about that planetary nebula and white dwarf, black dwarf, that was the one branch of that red giant. And if we consider with the other side of the red giant, so we are also having the other type or the other stage which will also take place after fusion reaction will die down, right?
Right, sir.
So supernova will also take place after the fusion reaction is no more there. So when there is no more fusion reaction, so again the core of the star will collapse completely, because we already studied that stage. So now we have idea about it. It will collapse completely, same like the previous stage. And the only difference over here that this supernova will produce due to that a huge explosion over here. So there will be a huge explosion because in planetary nebula, there is ejection of the outer layer of the surface. But in this process, we are having a giant explosion over here. And this giant explosion is known as supernova, right?
Right.
So this leads to that supernova. So supernova is basically when there is no fusion reaction or the fusion reaction run down. So the star is going to be collapsed towards the core and there will be a huge explosion or giant explosion over there and that will cause a new stage of the star which is known as supernova, right? And after this reaction or in the result of this reaction,
Yes.
we will get the neutron star that is due to that explosion and after explosion we will get that neutron star in it and the outer layer will also eject over here due to explosion because in explosion we know that outer layer will also emit out due to that explosion. So we are only talking about this stage that is neutron star because the ejection process we already discussed in the planetary nebula, so this will continue with the planetary nebula, but we are only talking about that neutron star. So after neutron star, we know that we will also get the black hole over there. So finally, after that star, we also get the black hole. So if we talk about that final stage of the other side, so that will form the black hole. So in the case of the biggest star, first these biggest star will form neutron star and it will continue collapsing because of gravity. So this neutron star will also collapse due to gravitational force over here. And finally, it will form black hole. And if we talk about the black hole, so black hole is extremely dense point. It is extremely dense part. And it is so much dense that we can say that we in start we studied that there is a thermal energy plus a light energy. So the density of this black hole is so much high that it will also absorb the light energy. Even light energy cannot escape from this black hole, so that's why black hole is so much dense as compared to the other stage. That's why the other the scientists and all people which are having interest in the space and astronomy will talk about the black hole because they have curiosity that how light is going to be absorbed by this black hole. So that is a something interesting process in the black hole, and it is dense enough that not even light can escape from black hole. So it will also absorb the light which is passing around the black hole. So it will absorb all the energy, all light energy, all thermal energy into it due to force of attraction or the gravity pull. So that's why no light will move out from that black hole. So that is the process of or the life cycle of the whole star that ends up with the black hole, the white dwarf, and the black dwarf at last. So this is the life cycle of a whole star.